Alright, we're starting her up. This Supernatural podcast, Supernatural Instinct podcast number 6. Is that what we're on? This one's not live, so can't get those super chats, but so we've had some developments in the last week or so you don't know about. The Hellier thing. I was on the Hellier Facebook group that I'm on, and there's this woman that came forward, and she's kind of like that Amy girl from the other one. Her name is Amber Ross, and can you see that? Is that showing up? Yeah, that's her.
Yep.
So she posted this thing. Let me read you some of it. Wait, how do I get to the... Is that all she wrote? She says, I was born and spent 34 over 40 years in Somerset. I have been drugged and taken by force to that cave, that house. The cops laughed and told me to go to rehab. I've lost custody of my child because my family believes I'm crazy. I was a teacher just like Amy for 11 years. Now her life's in shambles. She needs support from people who believe her. Please help. I've seen what lies beneath. I can't go back. So she never says what lies beneath, what she saw. All she really says is she was drugged and taken by force to that cave. So obviously, when you get a story like this,
the cops are in on it, or somebody in the town is in on taking people to this cave to sacrifice them, or something.
Yeah, like me and her have been arguing because I'm like, the first thing you do is you start asking questions and you try to disprove her story, because that's what skepticism is. You don't just believe everything anybody says. You got to like try to poke holes in it, try to like see if her story stands up. Because if you're telling the truth, it's easy to just like tell the truth, tell what actually happened, to answer my questions. You don't have to like dance around and kind of act like you got all this weird kind of proof and whatever. She says she's got all this stuff in a storage unit somewhere. She's got all this proof she could just show us, but she doesn't show it. So that's like the religious people saying, "Oh, there's plenty of evidence for God. I ain't gonna show you it right now. Just take my word that there's a bunch of evidence." That's not what she's doing.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So this guy, I forgot his name. If you go to her profile, this thing, the comments, I think this one's where, let's see, this guy came forward. He's saying he was vouching for her, basically. Was it on this one? I have all this saved anyway. I'll just bring it up again, I think. I don't. Yeah, this guy right here. This guy, this is where I posted. This is her, James Bennett. He says, I've got you on this. Now, this guy later on tells me that he's writing with a voice-to-text programs. That's why he sounds kind of retarded.
Oh.
For those of whether you know me or not, Amber has been telling the truth. This isn't a game, thus is very real and been going on for years, not just in Kentucky and Tennessee, all over the world. Take this serious. Question yourselves. Put yourself in these young men and women's places and try to imagine what it would feel like to know you're speaking the truth and no one believes you. Then step back, to your place, and I'm fine. You never got to see your loved ones because they didn't get to come home? Just gone without a trace. Who am I? You may just someone who been close enough to a president and his wife to know this isn't a game. I don't know what that means. Then he posts this picture of like Hillary Clinton and him supposedly in the white shirt in the background. So I wrote, that's so obviously photoshopped that now I can't take Amber seriously. The lighting is wrong. There's like these rectangle pixels under her arm. Looks like it's been pasted in. Remember that one where they said we didn't go to the moon and they had a picture of Earth out of the window, and like they ran a levels filter in Photoshop and it had like a square around it? I was trying to do that and I couldn't get it to show anything weird. So then he says later on that you can Google Hillary Clinton walk through New York in 2002 or something like that, and I Googled it and it was legit. So I guess it's a real picture.
Okay.
But,
or is it a real doctored? Like someone already photoshopped something?
I mean, I don't even know what his point is. Like, what is he trying to prove with this picture? Like I said, are you trying to say that...
Can you click on the picture so I can actually see it? It's so small. Like,
oh, yeah.
What the fuck's she doing that's supposed to be evil or whatever?
I was like, are you trying to say, like, you could have assassinated Hillary Clinton, but you didn't? That proves that you're trustworthy and we should believe everything you say or something? Like, what is his point? I'm someone who's been close to the president and his wife.
Anybody can go out there and stab somebody. It's not like...
I mean, Hillary Clinton wasn't even the president back then.
No, she was just
She was the wife of the president, I guess, in 2002.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, Bill Clinton wasn't president in 2002. That was George Bush, right?
No, Bill Clinton was in office for a while, and then he got kicked out, right? She was the first lady for a while.
Well, she wasn't ever the president, though. That's what I'm saying.
No, she's never president. She wanted to be a president, 'cause that was like her.
So then Amber is saying, this is no hoax. James Bennett is legit. Be careful with your words with no proof. I need this support. How dare you jeopardize it? And also, you're kind of the reason I'm having such a hard time. Folks like you just can't understand. It's making it so crushing for me. And she's saying she's going to make her entire page visible. Everybody should, friend her, and she'll send them all the evidence. She names a bunch of other women that supposedly have similar experiences that you can message them, which I messaged 2 of them, and none of them either answered me. And she says she wants to roundhouse kick me in the face right now. She was so relieved to find people who may just help her get through this whole thing. But the guy
She's mad at you for not believing that she was drugged and raped in some caves.
I mean, I don't even know what her story is yet. She never says what the story is. I'm asking her, how did you get involved with these people? Because she mentions another part of her profile. She used to be a heroin addict or something like that. So was it like a drug deal gone bad?
Yeah, but they could be they lure you in with drugs. Like a lot of people who are addicts, right? They will literally do anything. Like look at the fucking the Tiger King guy. Remember that?
Yeah. And somebody was saying these caves in Somerset, they do drug deals at them. So that's probably how she ended up in a cave, I guess.
Yeah.
But she said she said the only thing she knew about it was that it had something to do with the Freemasons. And she has this really rare blood type called Rh negative, which is where you're kind of like a universal donor. You can give your blood to anybody, but you can't receive blood from anybody. So if you have you need a transfusion, you're probably going to die. So it's a super rare blood type. So that makes sense. Say you've got this elite, rich, pedophile ring guy or somebody. I don't even know. Maybe he's just a rich guy that has rare blood, and he needs a transfusion, or he's afraid he may need it. So one day he wants to kidnap people that have this rare blood type and steal some of their blood so that he has a stockpile of it or something. That would make sense.
Yeah, there was a few guys they had Hansen versus Predator, that guy.
Yeah.
He went on this guy's podcast and was talking about somebody he helped catch was a rich fashion model fashion guy from France. And he just got arrested finally, thrown into jail. And here's the fucked up thing. He believed in stem cell research. And so he was...
Yeah, I believe in stem cell research. This is the thing.
So, he believed it was the fountain of youth, essentially. So he was... he had girls that he had sexually assaulted and got pregnant. And then he made them go to abortion clinics. And then
to harvest the
stem cells from those aborted babies.
He really believed in it.
He really, really believed into it. Yeah, and so Hansen talks about this for an hour or so. But so I'm just paraphrasing the whole. But it was crazy, and he said this guy was one of those guys that went to Epstein's Island and stuff. Well, are they sacrificing kids?
That was on the Catch a Predator show, or the later show that he did?
No, he did a. Came into
I know he really got into Onision on the YouTube.
I think it was he was on Flagrant's podcast, which is a popular
I've seen that.
He was talking about it. Yeah. It's a good watch if you watch it, because he goes into detail about some of these pedophiles that were coming and showing up were just really stupid people. They're you even understand how much trouble you're in? They're you didn't really understand.
Yeah, once you put a price on something like human trafficking, give people a price, there's going to be a business or a whole industry.
It's always going to be a business
involved out of it.
But anything that's valuable, right? So that comes back to this: if there is aliens in the cave, okay, why do they need people? Why do they need drugs?
She didn't really say there was anything about aliens. She just said, "I've seen what lies beneath." She can't go back from seeing it. I was maybe she's talking about. That's what I asked her. I said, "Have you seen
what?
Did you mean cave goblins, Hillary Clinton drinking children's blood, town cops worshiping aliens and cultist ropes? What exactly are we talking about here?" I understand you wouldn't be in the best place to know what was happening or remember it all if you were drugged, but you said you have a storage room full of stuff and other women that know stuff, so you must know something. I asked her about being a heroin addict. And then she linked this story here about this guy from Tennessee who was in the Pulaski County Jail for human trafficking charges. Oh, now it doesn't want to load. Anyway, it was about, he was like 21 and he was trying to lure an 11-year-old girl on Snapchat. I'm like, what's that got to do with it? You're not 11. You couldn't have been 11 whenever this happened. So,
was she? Was she like a young, like 15-year-old heroin addict or something?
I don't think so.
Like, when did she start doing heroin?
She was like pointing to the story and saying like to her family and everybody that doubted her, like, look what's going on. This is the guy or something like.
So this is the guy that took her to the caves. Was there a pedophile rape dungeon below, like, in the city in these caves or something?
Well, if it's the house I'm thinking of, and I probably shouldn't be saying this right now, I want to make a in-depth video. I've been trying to look at, like, maps that have, like, a history to them. Like, what is the Google Maps? Google Earth. I don't have it on the screen right now, but, like, Google Earth has a time-lapse thing. You can go back to, like, the 50s. Or aerial, historicalaerials.com. And, like, this is the area here, right? Right here. And if you go back far enough, this right here, there's like fields right in here that have grown up. These are trees. I've already pointed out, like, this looks like it's been photoshopped, this edge right here.
It does, because it's lighter here.
Now I've got this thing I
and
can
there's
draw.
An edge here. There's a physical, like, when did you go here?
It looks
like I know that might be a bad idea, but if you bring your gun with you, like GoPro and some other shit.
Yeah, but like this road goes like along here, and right here there's a little house. And then on a lot of these maps, we'll see if I move that, it's going to move the whole thing. But like right, like right about right here. This doesn't really show up really good. But there's just one historical photo. I'll bring it up in the next video. It's like a triangle. It's like a real dark triangle, like right here. It looks like a cave opening, like you could fly in from like a UFO and fly into this thing.
Well, is that a road that just north of that? Do you see in the trees there's a brown line that just kind of goes along?
This thing?
No. When you zoom, you were just there. Zoom back in and then. No. When you're where the house was, that's not there. Triangle thing. It starts there, the road, and then it seems like it just keeps going. And there's a little bit of a, see how there's a brown road or something in here?
Yeah, there's something, like if you go, I gotta get a better map than this one.
There's a clearing there.
There's a little building, like way up in here, like a little square building, you can barely make it out. Like maybe right here. I gotta get a different map. But there's all these different things like I want to check out and see what the fuck it is. This triangle thing, like this triangle thing really looks like it's dark black in one of these maps. Like it looks like it's a cave or maybe a pond, but
this looks like thick bush.
And another thing I didn't notice before is this is the little creek or whatever it's called, and it goes into the river, and the river has this red shit coming out of it. Like,
oh yeah, I noticed that.
So like my idea was that Area 51 is like underground, like up in here. So if it's spilling out chemicals or something into the river, it would come out like right about here, right? And
yeah.
Here's some right here.
But look north of that on the ground. There's like red, earthy areas.
Here's some more down here. I mean, there's no like industrial shit around here. These are all like residential neighborhoods. Unless it's like a red algae bloom thing, like a, and the only thing that causes that usually is like industrial waste.
Yeah, because it upsets the pH of the water. Oh my god, there's like a ton of it.
It's like a big streak coming out right there.
But this is like a, a photo, so that's no longer there, right? It would have been blowing.
So if Area 51 is underneath the ground here, and it's this big, it's like it goes from here. I mean, that's what I want to do is I want to organize another one of those Storm Area 51s. Like everybody says, you can't do that. It's impossible. There's all these guns and guys and guarding it. Nobody's guarding this shit right here. It's just like some yokels out in the woods with some tree stands and maybe some trail cams. If we had like 3,000 people show up to this stupid road, I mean, it would be so inundated, they wouldn't be able to do anything. I mean, you'd have to violate some property laws, but...
Well, especially nowadays where you're live streaming on TikToks and other stuff. If somebody came out and started shooting at you, they couldn't really cover that up, especially by how, like stuff spreads like wildfire online.
So what else was I going to say about that? I guess that's it for that for now. For Halebridge Road, Somerset, Amber Ross, and all that crap. Yeah, I don't remember too much more about that. Let's talk about this. This is something we can maybe debunk tonight. Is the triangular UFO phenomenon? Apparently, in 2017, they figured out there's this plane called the TR-3B that basically is that UFO everybody saw. The three lights. Oh. That thing.
So it's it's another one of those like black bomber planes or something.
I don't know if it's anti-gravity. This a video of it?
What was it Bob Lazar was talking about? Like the only way we could actually get some technology like that is that we got it from the aliens, reverse engineered their stuff.
Can't remember exactly how it works. It's real quiet though.
Yeah, it is.
Is this the one that they saw with the Phoenix lights, or is that something else? Oh, another thing I learned was that the Phoenix lights happened at the same time that Heaven's Gate cult supposedly jumped onto Halley's Comet. It was around the same time. So what if what if there really was a UFO?
It makes me wonder because the world is such full of like people who are trying to like pawn other people. So like for instance, Scientology, like what if Scientology isn't aliens at all? It's just like nothing to do with aliens. The other guy was just conning people. But then you got that one of these lesser cults that is aliens. Like seems like they wouldn't want to draw attention to themselves if they were aliens, right? It's like Why, if you're an alien species, you're like, okay, well, let's... And then you see everyone freak out, and you're like, well, maybe we shouldn't, like, show ourselves off. It's like, unless you just can't do, like, camouflage where you're invisible, that's, like, impossible.
I mean, it's totally possible that, like, insects are aliens, that they've been here longer than humans, and they just don't care about us because... I mean, I'm sure we killed quite a few of them, but it's not enough to, like, try to mount an attack against us or something. I don't know. Or maybe they're not even like, they didn't come here intentionally. They were just on the back of an asteroid or something. Or evolved into like grasshoppers or something shit.
Yeah, there's like a theory about that where there's like a lot of creatures that seem to be just kind of like this, like that thing we're talking about, how Earth is a zoo. Mm-hmm. It's like an unintentional zoo where like different species have come to this planet, either like asteroid maybe taken some of their genetic and they've evolved over time. Or you've had like fossils or funguses. A lot of people, what I've seen is like fungus is an alien. It's an alien like plant.
Yeah, it is different than everything. It's weird.
Yeah. So if that's the case, it makes me wonder if maybe funguses would actually become sentient or grow into like not the same idea of like a mushroom person or something, but I've seen the stuff where you've seen those like mushroom spores that can take over ants.
Yeah, like they could use their host.
Puppeteering them and stuff, so that's kind of freaky.
Yeah,
it also makes me wonder if mushrooms are a bioweapon made by aliens to like fuck with us or something. Because it's just so different from everything else. It just doesn't need light. Just grows like fucking anywhere on dead stuff. And some mushrooms are good for us, and others are like extremely poisonous. And other ones are like hallucinogens, right?
Have you been following the Oak Island stuff?
Yeah, a little bit. Have they found any more stuff?
They keep finding roads, so, but like everything they find up there keeps pointing to like all this activity before we even discovered America.
Oh.
And it makes you wonder, like why would they bother digging so deep and like putting all that crap up there? No, I'm wondering, like, you got all these human traffickers and stuff. People go missing. The Finders thing. Remember the Finders thing you were talking about, or the Finders is this cult.
Oh, the
patient
Epstein.
zero for Epstein and Pizzagate. And this is saying like they were pretty much like cleared of all charges. Like they dropped the charges. Like they weren't even really. They're just like a nice cult or something. Nice cult. But like, you know, there's all these kids that end up on milk boxes and they never ever seen again. Like there's so many of them. Like what if they're not all like killed, and they're all
trafficked?
You know, like if you go down in the Earth's crust, you have like layers of like andesite and all these different kinds of like stone, and then you got like a layer of limestone, which is like really easy to carve caves and stuff into. Like they always talk about like end of the world scenario. You want to like carve a bunch of underground bunkers in limestone. What if there's like a whole network under there, and it's like they've got a whole other society they've started up with all these people that they kind of skim them off the top, like when you take the rake in a lot or like a casino. You know, like let's take 10% of the humans, they'll never notice it, and then they start breeding them and have a whole other society down there.
Yeah, if you watched like urban exploration videos where people go like underneath the New York City, and there's like huge, vast areas of either sewer systems or there's like old train tunnels that are decommissioned, and sometimes it's like full of homeless people that live down there. So it's kind of like the same idea, because if you were a group like this,
what was it?
Some like abandoned area in like a city, and no one would ever know.
Was that story with had the Morlocks or something like that lived underground?
Yeah, like crab people or something like that.
See, you'd have to have. See, that's what I'm thinking about with this Hellier thing. If you have an underground base, right? They have to have lights, or you're going to end up mutating and having to like you'd be going blind like bats and those weird fish.
Not necessarily. So I did some.
That's why we got these power lines that go like this one power line. It's just dedicated.
That one power line that goes in there
lights up the whole underground base for them.
So they have found creatures that are able to survive, but like you need vitamin D, or you start having all these like generative problems and start going insane. And so one of the biggest things is like you can get vitamin D from fish. So if you had a underground stream that ran through your cave system that had fish in it, hypothetically you could stay alive down there as long as you're getting vitamin D from fish.
Or you just bring it in on a truck if it's a big enough cave.
Or you just bring it in a truck, yeah. But I'm just saying, like, other cave systems that might have, like we were talking a while there for about, it was Vietnam stories, all these, like, random cave systems that are just, okay, go down there and see if there's anybody hiding down there. They're running into, like, giant spiders and other shit.
No, we're talking about how we need to start up a gaming podcast as well.
Yeah.
You know, you talk about like different maps and games, like are certain sizes. They talk about the really big ones, like the Grand Theft Auto map, and the Fuel racing game had a huge map. Elder Scrolls and Skyrim and stuff, but they don't take into account like the vertical part of the map. Like if you made a map, like a game map that was all underground, but it's like the same size of a sphere as a normal map would be. It's like all dense. You know, like how in Fallout 4 had all the Boston was like vertical and there's like way more stuff to it.
Yeah.
If the whole map was
you
like
could actually go up all those buildings.
Like you might be walking for like hours and you're still just like trying to go up a skyscraper or something because it's so dense and there's like fights in every hallway and trying to work your way to something.
I did a survival mode playthrough where I just lived in Boston for like the first 20 levels, and it was hard because there was a lot of verticality. Like, before you knew it, there was like super mutants above you, and there's raiders below you. Where do I go?
I would design it like stalactites and stalagmites, but they're really big, so you could have like rooms inside of them. So you got like skyscrapers that hang down and skyscrapers that come up. and there's like a little bit of space in between you can see to maybe like snipe through at somebody across the map. But like something like that.
But the cave would have to be so big. I could see that happening.
It wouldn't be a sky. You'd probably get claustrophobic just playing the game.
Well, I don't get claustrophobic, so I don't know.
Like that Descent game where you fly a spaceship into an asteroid. You never actually
Oh, yeah. Well, okay, so remember when we were playing that dwarf game? That's a premise, too. We were underground the entire time inside the map, right? Big randomly generated caves.
Which game? Oh, yeah.
The dwarf game. The one where we're in space.
Space dwarfs, yeah.
So that's kind of an interesting, because it's like, there were certain maps that felt open, but they were just really, really big caves. So...
I've been having new ideas for my ultimate game idea too, so we need to do a podcast about that.
Okay, well, we do whatever.
Anyway, let's talk about the Goblin Scene in North Carolina military base. This was posted on your Reddit.
What Goblin?
Goblin. This guy's talking about he lives on or maybe it's a woman. She lives on a military base in North Carolina, next to a golf course. A goblin comes up to her window, starts pacing back and forth, trying to get in outside of her son's window. She grabbed him, and it was a woman. Her husband was deployed, and I guess eventually it left or something. And she says a human femur was found in her backyard 5 years ago, dug up by a dog. It has a history of contaminated water going back to 1953. People on this base have the worst mental health she's seen in 9 places that she's lived. Marines have suicide attempts left and right. People at high school switch off base schools for mental health reasons and all this crap. And later on, she says that it's in Onslow County. So I figured out where it was. Also, there's these stories of like devil dogs, monster like chupacabra type dogs around this area. And
animals with mange?
Or maybe real ones. Where's my map at? Here we go. Jacksonville, North Carolina. So this is a military base.
It's a big military base.
Where is it? Here's the military base. Here's the main part of the military base.
Look at the air. That's a nice airfield right there. It's gotta have some loots.
You also got stuff out here, like this kind of stuff. Little like storage places or shooting ranges or chemical storage. I don't know what the fuck that is. And then you got housing in between here. But some of this stuff I've noticed, I made some notes like there was triangles. I don't remember what I was talking about. It was like the fields were weirdly shaped. Like there's not like square fields. There's like weird, just like cuts and stuff. Some of the fields were shaped wrong, or the roads were shaped weird. And then I noticed like this red water and these tanks.
Like next to that big field next to it's all dead.
There's another one right here. Here's a big red.
Look up to the left. The ground looks all fucked up in a lot of these plots. Look to your left, far left.
Oh yeah,
that looks
stuff?
like bacon.
Looks like the creep in StarCraft when
But isn't this the same color of the shit that was in the river in the other place?
Could it be cranberries?
Maybe.
I mean, not a military base. This is some kind of chemical shit.
Looks like chemical.
There's more of it if you go. Like, here's a bunch of weird plots. They're all like rectangles, and then there's like this weird diamond that shoots into the middle of this plot. Like, why does that do that?
We do have plots like that around here. More or less, it's like whatever you could afford. So, like a farmer might sell a piece of his property to another farmer, but then
maybe it's a chemical they use for fertilizer. It's red.
Maybe because it's everywhere around here.
There's another one right here. It's always got these long white buildings next to it. There's a triangular pond. What the hell?
Is it blood? Is it blood from like slaughtering animals or something?
Let's pretend that it is for the podcast. Get more views that way.
Blood into the underground chambers.
Here's some kind of thing that's got a bunch of
weird
what
squiggles. The fuck?
That even looks like a little goblin face with an antenna, and this one's his friend.
They look like Pikmin or something.
They're like pathways that go to like little bunkers or storage. Military's got some weird shit going on. I can find somebody that's in the military that can explain what all this stuff is.
Griff in the military?
Nah, he works for Homeland Security. But then, let's see, the place she was talking about, she must live. Where's the military? There's the military base. And then here's the golf course. So she must live in one of these houses. So around here, there's a goblin going around. And somewhere on this golf course. And then, here, no. Here, Camp Devil Dog.
Oh, it actually has a name. Holy shit.
So it's named after probably not the chocolate treat with cream in the middle. It's probably a fucking chupacabra. They're probably experimenting on them, and they're like setting them loose on people, seeing how they react. Bunch of
They've
weird shit.
escaped from the. You know how dogs are. Imagine if it was a devil dog. But what is all this shit? I see it everywhere. It looks like fucking corruption or something.
It might just be the lighting on that day that the GPS went over. I don't know. I spend way too much time looking at maps.
That looks like a big triangle pizza thing with a bunch of...
There's another one over here, right here.
Look, is it like a radar or a military? There's another one
Here's
that's
a
like...
triangular shaped weird thing. And then over here there's like an amphitheater. Where was that at? Right here. Kind of parking lot. That's a hospital, I guess. And then this, I guess, is the main city. It's not part of the base.
It's like people from the base mostly live there.
But if you just look around this area, you'll find a bunch of weird stuff. It's kind of like certain places you'll see a bunch of weird. Like, look at this. It almost looks like it's blurry.
Yeah, it is blurry. What, are they purposely blurring nanos? Are they piles of dead bodies or something?
No, it's some kind of special metal that just really is blurry in real life.
Oh, it's like a junkyard.
Space metals that you're not supposed to know about. That's what Mitch Hedberg said, like, what if Bigfoot really just is blurry? And that's why all the pictures of him are blurry. What if he just is blurry?
Well, it was interesting, because it's like, there was a story I read about the fuzzy man. And when they talked to the kid about, like, what do you mean by the fuzzy man? He's like, no, he wasn't actually fuzzy. He just, like, I couldn't see him. He looked, even, like, at arm's length, still looked, like, blurry.
You seeing this?
What? See, that looks like corruption. What are we looking at here?
Looks like mycelium of a mushroom, like going into an eyeball or something.
Those look like crop circles that there are that have, like, eruption going on. Like, this looks like the same purple...
It's like a World of Warcraft map. Like, they're growing corruption in these red tanks, and they're spreading it around. Like, right here. They've spread more corruption around.
It looks like purple.
Look at all these, like, paths that come out of this. This looks like the drain over in Oak Island. The filters.
Yeah.
Another note I made was the... let's see, here's the military base. If you go west of it... There's like, you know how you got a crossroads? It's like 4 roads meet. There's one of them that's like 6 roads or something that all meet in this one spot. Where was that at? So if there's...
I wonder how much of that, because it's like maybe it's just a bunch of like toxic waste from, like, they look like tailing ponds or stuff.
I don't remember where it was. It's really weird though.
But the Oak Islands, you got some pictures of that, of like what they found. Because the only thing I saw recently was like, they put in that wall, and then they found a ring, and they dug down deep, and they found some timbers and some other shit, but it was like...
They got this thing, they got the cross. They got some Bobby Dazzlers there.
But like how... So they've been digging, right? And they get money for people watching the show, but then when they actually find something, do they get... Is its value enough to keep production going, essentially?
Well, they're not selling it.
That's what I'm saying.
And if they had anything of value, they'd have to give like 80% of it to the government, probably.
Yeah, see, like, the whole shaft is strange because okay, so you know how the Romans, like maybe the Romans built this because the Romans went everywhere, but it seems kind of odd. Like the only other people we know that have been to America has been like the Spanish or Vikings. But like, why would they dig this big fucking elaborate pit that, like, if you dig too deep, it floods it?
That's what kills me, is they found this anomaly shaped like a giant ship. The seismic thing.
Oh, with this seismic thing.
And they've dug all the way around this east side. They've just ignored this massive ship that they found.
Well, they're like, oh, let's leave the ship till last.
They had this whole theory, like maybe they brought a treasure ship in and just tipped it over on its side, covered it up, filled it all in. Well, there's your treasure. Why are you looking for this money pit? You already got a treasure ship theory, and there's this treasure ship. 2 + 2 = 4. Dig down in there. I guess because they didn't get any metallic hits off of the seismic or whatever. Didn't get any metal detection hits.
Well, this is why I think Oak Island might be bullshit, because you think about any other country that's found some shit, like anything like this, or an archaeological dig, they have like hundreds of people digging, excavating. Look at how they anytime they find like Aztec ruins or stuff in Egypt, they got that stuff in like a fucking museum in like lickety split, you know? But why does no one else care about like Oak Island? It's like, oh.
This would change history if they figured out what it was. It's already changing history because they know people were here before Columbus and Amerigo Vespucci.
Do you think like maybe this is an outpost for like white people or whatever, and then they got wiped out by the Indian population or something?
No. Well, it seems like the Templars had a lot to do with it, but then you also got this guy, the black guy, he was like a slave, and then all of a sudden he's like the richest guy. He's like bought 4 plots of land on the island and stuff. Nobody knows where he got his wealth from. He was like a cabbage farmer. So
cabbage
they think
farmers
he found
just
some
digging
of the
around
treasure.
and found
Like,
a bunch of treasure.
maybe he already found it and spent it all. That's why they don't find anything.
That's why there's only like, yeah, so like, it makes me wonder if, okay, so like the money pit itself might be complete bullshit. It's like a fool's errand pit. They're just digging and digging and digging, and there's like maybe a couple quarters down there, and that's about it. You know what I mean? Like it's they think there's something in the money pit, so they keep digging there instead of digging in other places on the island.
Let me show you something else that, you know, I study maps a lot.
Like if you're an ancient pirate,
I think this is going
you
to
don't want someone finding your treasure. I'm gonna make a fake treasure over here that's bullshit. It's full of traps, and they're gonna keep fucking around with it.
What the fuck is this map? Holy shit. Never seen this.
Is that like fan art or something? Rare antique
Maybe.
map.
I've never seen it on the show. Krakow Point, something like that. Let me look into this later, but Fred Nolan map, 1974. They have to know about this. Why has it not been mentioned on the show?
Nova Scotia. This item has been sold. Is it pop-up blocker blocking it?
Oh, there we go. Oh. Oh, he's got the ring bolts. So they must know about this already. This is what kills me. You didn't... I thought we were done with pop-ups after like the 90s, but like if you go to any kind of newspaper site or like...
Yeah, please accept our cookies and look at all our ads, please.
They always want you to subscribe before you can look at anything. It's like, give it the times, people. Anyway, I'm about to blow your mind. I'm saving the best for last. We're going to look at some maps on a global scale. You know how they say nature abhors right angles and straight lines and stuff like that?
Yeah.
We're going to Nicaragua. This is the Google Earth, right? Now, you've probably seen these things before. Some of these are fault lines. You can see like the fault line through here. This is where the Earth's
Yeah, it's like the San Andreas fault line.
But then you got these weird lines like this that kind of go across. It looks like scarring from when the Earth was first formed or something. Like scratch
lines
marks
or
and
something.
stuff.
Stretch lines or something.
That's what I thought they were, but I don't think it is. But if you go to Nicaragua, you go right here. Look at this waffle-shaped kind of gridiron-looking thing.
Oh, and there's like a circle there too.
Yeah, there's little pinch marks, kind of like there's a circular thing here. What the fuck is that?
Looks like a road or a structure that's sunk. Right? But it's like right off the coast, and it's.
And I think I'm gonna be able to answer my own question in a second, because I'm gonna blow your mind even more. Okay, you see all these scratch marks, right? I'm gonna zoom out. What do you see now?
Kind of a circle down there.
What do you see here?
Square. Square. That never happens.
What? And this is the size of fucking California.
Oh.
Let's take it up to California. Look, well, I zoomed out a bit. It's about the size of California. That's how big that square is.
Motherfucking square. Yeah.
And you don't really notice it until you're like zoomed out and you're like, oh, hello.
Well, like, is it one of those things when you're ever actually there, it would just look like a big trench? It wouldn't be anything.
Now, I'll tell you what I think this is. Because if you look at it, you see how it's got detail, fine detail. And you got on the sides, it's blurry.
Blurry.
I think this is the GPS turning on and off again. Like a GPS was going in a path and it turns on and it turns off. I don't know why it would make a square, a rectangle though, because GPS doesn't go north and south. Does it?
Not that I know of. But maybe there's something there that's omitted.
Now,
like,
this
you know how
kind
they
of is the
blur
same
military bases.
So, yeah, this is like detail. And look at the size of this right here, right?
Yeah.
Look at this island. This is a small island. This is actually a decent sized island. You still got to zoom way in just to get the detail on that.
Oh, jeez, it's actually like a big island with people on it and stuff. And in comparison to this, it's fucking.
Look at these. These are even tinier. Like, you don't even see the islands until, like, it kind of, like, picks a spot out of the blurriness to, like, say, oh, there was something here, we're going to, like, focus in on it. So the GPS doesn't focus all the way in unless there's something there. So this isn't focused in, really, except for these lines. It kind of focuses in on something, but not fine detail. We're still, like in the clouds, sort of. Because look at here, you go into like this all here is what we were looking at before, this kind of light blue, and then you get to the dark blue, then you're like looking through the clouds into the ocean kind of a color. So this is all blurry. Like, you wouldn't be able to see boats on the ocean if they're just like traveling between islands because it doesn't show the detail for that. You zoom in, there's nothing there.
Well, that's not entirely true because some of the old pictures in like the rivers that you've shown, you should see a boat going across it, like the speed mark, right?
See this right here? This isn't an island, it's an atoll. So there's not even really anything here, unless the water level's low enough for it to like show up. So it doesn't really like.
But yeah, an atoll is a coral island of some sort. It's there. This doesn't look like barely anything there.
It must have saw movement or something and thought there was something here. You'll see that every now and then. It's like a spot that looks like there should be something there, but it's not. I think there's some on the left side.
So reading a bunch of kind of creepypasta stories about ocean exploration and people seeing what's called like black divers, which are like supposed to be ghost divers or something along those lines. It was kind of interesting, especially areas of like, they talked about the areas of the ocean that didn't seem to have like any life.
There was this show, what was it called? This astronaut, Cooper's Gold. Astronaut named Cooper. He was like flying over the Bahamas looking for Cold War stuff from Cuba. And he started writing down all these shipwrecks he would see because he had this really fancy equipment. And like this guy was going to like checking all of his spots because like he had half of the map, or one of them had the map and one of them had like all of the names of the islands that the map like had zoomed in on. I think this one right here is one of the islands, and they ended up finding some shipwrecks. Like right around in here or something. I think this is the island. It looks like this one. Turks and Caicos. They had a bunch of shipwrecks around there too. Because this stuff right here is so shallow, ships will be coming up from South America full of like Spanish gold to take back to Spain. And they would go to ground on these high points.
Atolls and high points, just like we were playing Valheim and fucking getting beached on sandbars and stuff. Tricky business. Sailing around.
Did we ever talk about the strip up here that we thought was fake land? Or it was real?
You showed me this.
Like Google was covering up the land.
Well, it looks like snow or ice or something. But it looks like...
That's where they put the composite together of all the photos. And then... That's just a state line, right?
Yeah, it's just, there's a lot of stuff out there where I wonder... Because the ocean isn't very detailed, right? It's just kind of like what sound waves bounce back. So, like, if the government controls everything, right? You control Google or whatever. If you found something in the ocean or found something on land, and like a lot of those military bases are blurred, right? They're all blurry. Like, they censor it essentially. So what's stopping them from censoring the real map and just like, oh, there's just nothing but ocean here, guys? So I like to be skeptical in that regard.
I see some Russian submarines.
Like that.
Boom. Nuclear Russian subs.
I wonder, because like, if you had in shallow enough water, right? But they must know that. Like, most militaries now that are worth their salt aren't morons, right?
What do you mean?
Like, I'm assuming they had account for this, right? Or they just...
Account for what? Who are you talking about?
Right. Like, governments, they're like, oh, Google Earth is a thing, we better call them and make sure they blur out our compound. Or all of our other shit. But then, that makes me wonder, right? Because what about the stuff you've seen with your Fitbits, where you're like, oh, this might be a military base. Then we look there and there's like nothing there.
I mean, what's Russia gonna tell like an American company? How they gonna have any say over what they do?
Yeah, but isn't it like a legally binding thing? Like, maybe not Russia, but like if you go over to Saudi or...
Is that what that is?
Those Hellfire missile ports, maybe?
Subs shoot Hellfires?
I think so. I think. Like some sort of guided missiles.
Yeah, some kind of missile.
A lot of the stuff, those nuclear subs are fucking around.
Maybe?
Assuming. Yeah, it's kind of the thing that's been bothering me for a while. It's like, war even like winnable? Because if we all go into an all-out war and we end up using nuclear weapons, I don't see that like going well.
That's why nobody does it. Mutually assured destruction.
Yeah, but we just keep like, everyone's just like, oh, don't piss off Russia or China because they'll push their button. I'm like, are you sure? It's basically like killing yourself. So, like, how hard can China push? Like, for instance, if you go to South China Sea, they're building all these man-made islands, and they're building them right next to trade routes, and then so South China Sea, I don't know if it comes. See, look at all the small. Those are all man-made islands. All these fucking places they put military bases on top of all of them.
Trees on them.
You know, so some of them have been terraforming, and then there's like ones that look like more like sandbars and stuff. I don't know how far it goes south because it's like,
South China Sea.
I guess.
Mm-hmm.
There's Taiwan, and they're talking about taking Taiwan over.
So this is how I first found about these weird lines, just because I looked at the Marianas Trench through here. Look how deep that shit is.
Yeah.
Like, you know how you go to the beach and like you see a cliff and you step off of it, you're like way in over your head. This is way the fuck in over your head. This is a few miles.
Yeah, it's like you could take two Mount Everests and put them on top of each other, and they would still be submerged. The deepest point. What's that? Another
Deepest
atoll?
ocean.
The deepest ocean. For those of
Probably
you who don't
islands.
know that, we just watch like
Demonic possession with the.
and then these people will be like, "I'm possessed by a demon," and it's like the worst acting you've ever seen, and it's so fucking stupid. It's hilarious. And there's one black guy who ended up saying like, "From the deepest ocean."
Oh yeah, look at this thing I found. It's like a big pyramid, like here.
Yeah,
See that?
look at that.
Comes to a point like this.
It's like I saw a video earlier that was talking about is there mountains under the ground?
How big is that? It's massive.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks massive. See, I don't understand how this works.
Because it looks like it's as big as the continent that's next to it.
Like, Greenland isn't that big because the way you project a map in 2D
Isn't
makes
it there a
everything
way to
north
take
of
off
this line
the
look way
snow?
bigger. I mean, if you
Greenland-
zoom in on it, though, what are we looking at here? All of this is like it's not stretched or blurry. It's not like warped. So what the fuck are we looking at here? Russia is not as big as it is, supposedly. But all this land, it's all like, it makes sense. Nothing's like stretched out and weirdly skewed or anything to like make it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it looks like an actual map.
If you zoom in on a city, it's like north of the line where everything's like way bigger than it is. Everything, streets all kind of line up. They're perpendicular and everything seems to check out. So what are they saying when they say like, you know, anything north of like here looks bigger on a map than it is? Like Canada's not really this
Isn't that the
big,
way they
Greenland's
draw maps though? It's like an illusion.
But you can
fit
zoom
everything
in
the
on it and you can see everything. So what are they talking about?
Yeah. See, the problem is like a lot of these territories up here.
What's not really here? Is this rock not here?
I guess.
Is this snow
like,
not here? What are they talking about?
I don't know exactly what, because like I look at the place up there and it doesn't look blurry. It looks like we've mapped it
There's
all out.
pictures of it. I mean, like if we do like a measure distance thing,
Oh yeah, maybe.
if we measure from here to here. No wait, back it up.
'Cause Greenland looks fucking gigantic compared to the rest of the continent. I don't think it's supposed to be
The
there.
United States is 2,500 miles across. Now Greenland across 671 miles. So that's like only a third of this distance.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, not to scale properly.
But if I click my mouse forward, my mouse wheel, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Like, is this the same zoom level as if I go up to here and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9? Oh, we're zooming in way faster, I feel like.
Yeah, it feels like it's zooming in a lot faster, and there's like nothing here really.
I'm trying to find a city to see if I'm at the city.
Well, most of their
level.
cities are on coastlines, right? So, oh wow, yeah, this is way more zoomed out. Look at the huge area.
99, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I don't know. It seems like it's all kind of the same.
It's about the same.
I do like how you can tell like there's curvature though, because if you go like that, you can see it's a curve. It's not like woo. See, if you move it like that, it goes straight up and down.
Well, that's the thing about like Canada. What a lot of people don't realize is all this area up here. No one wants to live up there. It's just a frozen wasteland.
The flat Earth argument used to be like if you fly from like here to here, you have to go through the United States.
No.
Like all the flight paths, there's no flight paths that just goes here to here. They all go up here first, and then they come down here.
Oh. Well, because a lot of that is safety. Because
they have to refuel. I guess.
You have to refuel, and if you run into any problems along that way, you can't like stop off at any locations in there for emergencies. They usually do that because if you're going down the coast and you have engine problems, you can veer back to the coast. But at the same time, like, I was in Australia at one point for some trips, and we left Sydney Airport, and to go back to Canada took us 30 hours because they had to go around a storm. So I don't know, like, if there's, you know how there's shipping lines? Is there shipping lanes for airplanes as well? Because they're like, oh, this one area of the ocean's bad for storms or something. Can't through there.
Hmm. So these lines here, these aren't like shipping lane lines, are they?
I don't think so. No. But if you could bring up a shipping lane, because I've seen some weird stuff where there's shipping lanes that completely avoid certain areas, like the Bermuda Triangle, Demon Sea, south of Japan. There's like a few other areas.
Devil's Triangle.
Yeah, the Devil's Triangle.
I think that's like.
Well, I think it's the Demon Sea. Something like that. Yeah, so it's like anything from down to the Philippines. It might just be the deeper the water is, the more storms are in there. There's like, is there islands through there? They're mostly all just like these random little nothings.
What was that?
Volcanoes and stuff. Because humans need a few things to live, right? We need like food and water.
Sex.
But a lot of these islands can't support that. Then there's the Bering Strait there. A lot of people think that was the land bridge, but like...
Yeah, if you look like right here, this stuff right here looks like it was almost high enough to make like another island as big as Japan. It could have been like a whole other...
Yeah, it's just slightly lower.
But like the Aleutians, it almost didn't make it. Almost wasn't a thing. Whoa! Just zoomed in too much and I teleported. There's some other place I was like, I'll zoom in and Google Maps would kick me out.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like some sort of censorship in a way, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's a thing.
It's Hawaii.
What you were saying before is kind of like the apex of video games in a way, where the meta for a video game is you play it until you beat it. But for humans, we've kind of like conquered the world. We have like cities and towns basically everywhere we could put stuff. We're still expanding, and we've explored, like, we're even thinking about going and colonizing other planets because we've run out of room on our own planet.
Everybody talks about if the sea levels rise, like how much land we would lose, but what if the sea levels lowered? Look how much land we would gain.
Well, the problem is the water would have to like be frozen.
Have to go somewhere.
It would have to go somewhere.
It'd have to boil off and make like a heavy mist over the whole planet. That would cause a huge greenhouse effect.
Oh, we'd probably have crazy storms then, right? Because we would have all this warm, moist air.
Do you think the Sahara Desert used to be an ocean? Because where does sand come from? The beach, right?
Well, yeah, and
just focus in on this word right here.
Yes, exactly. Well, it's on Google Maps, so it's I guess it's legit. But I heard from it used to be a large forest, but because humans had wars and it or like a big forest fire and then natural disasters and stuff.
Do you ever notice, like, if you add a V to Niger, you could spell out the word virgin, and it's right next to the country of Chad. Virgin and Chad.
Doesn't Chad mean something in one of these?
It's like the opposite of a virgin.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I really like seeing this. When I would look over this desert, it looks like either the wind did this. There's a lot of people, from what I read about the Eye of the Sahara, if you look around it, it looks like it's on an island surrounded by sand. Well, at one point in time, a tsunami or something came through here and just
like lower than this, right? These are.
We're on a mountain plateau. See? Look how high it is compared to the surrounding.
I guess so.
Like, maybe there's more of these at the bottom of the ocean, we just don't know they're there. This is the only one on the surface. And you could find whale bones in this desert as well.
What's that place that has all the ships in the middle of the desert? And how did they get there?
Like, how old are these ships? Because I remember...
There's this show called What in the World that shows, like, a bunch of weird stuff you find on Google Maps.
So the one that's in this one here, this is these rusted old metal ones. There's a lake that's in, like, Russia, and Russia diverted the river.
The Namib Desert.
The entire desert, like, the whole lake dried up. But it's a toxic desert now because the lake used to be a runoff for chemicals and stuff, and now that there's no water there, dust is full of chemicals, so people get like cancer and stuff living in the area. Humans, we just keep fucking up all the natural resources, making places unlivable. The fuck? Why is it? Why do we care about this tiny little fucking itsy bitsy sandbar in the middle of the ocean?
Because I'm going to buy it.
I
I'd
mean,
like to find an island that, like, nobody even cares about. But
well,
it's got,
that makes
like,
me wonder if
house.
is the island's price going to go down because you'd have islands that are like going to be submerged if the water level goes up.
Where's the Namib Desert? Oh, Namibia.
Yeah, right here.
That makes sense. Where
That's
are
what looks like a big
ships?
nasty looking desert.
Yeah, I thought it would take me a while to find these things. You imagine they would be close to the ocean, though.
Is there... What was the one that was like... Not Namibia, but... in India, they do like the ship breaking. Kind of like reminds me of that.
But just where they go into ice. You can break the ice with the ship.
No, I meant like they beach the ships and then like tear the ships apart for scrap metal.
Pirates do that?
In like...
What have I found? What is this? I found a fucking African Area 51. Holy shit.
They find oil
What
here,
is
is
all
that what it
this
is?
stuff? That's tailings right there, right?
Yeah, I think so.
That's a dredge. They've been mining for lithium. What's blue?
Cobalt.
Cobalt mine.
You need that for making phones. You can only find a lot of cobalt in like the shitty desert areas like Iraq and stuff.
I think I found it.
Like square black tailing ponds. I've looked at the oil sands in Canada and they look like just nasty.
Is that power lines that just go through the middle of Namibia?
Straight through the desert.
We've gotten way off Supernatural.
I know, but
now we're getting back in the Area 51 shit again. It all comes back around. Is that a tank? No.
that looks like a giant dump truck or something.
You'd think they would need some kind of military to like defend all this stuff.
What's that? That looks like dumping.
Tailings.
More tailings.
From a dredge.
Oh yeah, there's a big dredger like from Fallout
There's one,
76.
one.
There's like 3 or 4 of these giant dredgers. Maybe they might be giant ones, but
They want like a big semicircle right here. Probably prospecting to figure out
where the next node is. Well, that's the kind of thing with humans. If there's money to be made, we will build like bases out in the middle of nowhere. Mine them. Cobalt and gold and zinc
Look at
and
this fucking
lithium.
mine.
Holy shit!
uranium mine, dude.
Ooh.
Uranium fever's gonna and got me down. Man,
Uranium
how much
is-
uranium would you find in a big place like this?
Uranium's usually in
That's crazy.
like low concentrations in most places, but any place you set up a mine usually has high concentration.
Like, there's probably in the whole world, there's probably less uranium that could fill this room that I'm in right now, and they've dug that much to find it.
Yeah. This is like huge, dude. This is
Yum
like a
Fun
whole city here.
Playground. What do they got there? What's at the Yum Fun Playground? For kids. You live on a uranium mine and you got kids? Bring them to the Yum Fun Playground in Arandis, Namibia.
Yep, you work at the uranium mine. Probably not a place you want to roll. Geez, look at the size of that machine. Oof, what is that?
This? Whoa.
Yeah.
That's
a bunch of conveyor belts and stuff.
The conveyor belt goes for... How long is that?
For fucking miles. Jesus Christ. Holy fuck.
2,175 feet. How long is that?
2,000 feet to meters? It's like 2 kilometers, so that's like
3,000 feet for that one.
3,000. I'll Google it.
You're doing it live tonight. We're finding all kinds of crazy shit. Oh my god. Can't believe I stumbled onto a uranium mine. Blind luck. Oh my god.
It's 3,000 feet is about
gold.
Almost a mile. Like conveyor belts.
Look at that shape. Oh my god.
How many was it a how many 3,000 feet or yards?
Yeah, 3196 is a mile, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
Husab uranium mine.
Yeah, for miles it's 0.56.
This one's just getting started.
Wow.
What the fuck? These are like going to be the Arabs of the future.
This is what I was saying. Oil is kind of like, sure, we might have another 500 years of oil or whatever, but it's not really sustainable, right?
Camping and glamping? Are you kidding me?
Oh my god, look at the shit. Look at the shitty shack you get to live in.
Oh, glamping. Glamour camping. I thought that was in California. I didn't know they did it out in the middle of Africa, next to the uranium mines.
In the fucking middle of nowhere, destroyed desert. Like, what is this place? Ugh. Are you tired for driving for miles and miles in this hostile environment? Come for a fucking plate here.
Snee River Lodge. That looks pretty decent.
Okay, that looks pretty good. Nice picture. I'm surprised it's not like ransacked by the. Seems weird. Like, look at this place. It's just a big barren wasteland, and then you have like a resort in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, like, is this a city?
There's not even any fucking trees anywhere.
Why is this a name? Why does this have a name? Isabis. I go in, there's like
nothing there.
Scrubland.
It looks cool. Were there clouds there that are causing that kind of
nature reserve? Oh, yeah.
Doesn't look like anything in there. There's a creek maybe and some rocks.
I guess rocks are part of nature.
I guess they're. Whoa! What's this? What the fuck? Does that look different? Look, it looks cut out. Another plateau or something.
Wow, this looks like it's like a cliff. Doesn't even look like I'm looking down on it. It looks like I'm looking from a side view.
Yeah, but why is that up there all super flat?
It's like those ancient airports they have in South America. The aliens.
Oh
used to take off
yeah. Yeah, because it's a.
It must be really high up. They got a bunch of switchbacks to get up there.
Look at the fucking switchback that goes up there. Yeah.
And in a random hut in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, they just look like little packages or something.
That's a big radar tower, I think. See the shadow of it?
Yeah. Look, the whole thing looks like a fucking ship or some bullshit like sitting up there. I know it's not, but it looks out of place, I guess.
I thought it was a lake. That's why I zoomed in on it.
Yeah.
It made out of slate rock or something.
It reminds me of the stuff we saw in like what Antarctica for a while. We thought was like
Airstrip.
another landing strip.
Corona Guest Farm.
Rona.
That looks way nicer than what it looks like. How are they getting grass and shit?
It does look really fucking nice. But, like, how expensive is this? Because there's nothing else around for miles, like 100 miles in all directions. This is just a bunch of...
They made the tiles out of uranium. They're so rich.
Using purple. Bathroom was awful with that. Oh, man.
Desert Ranch. We're just like playing on Google Maps now. We're not even talking about supernatural stuff.
Now, let's try to get back on topic.
Do I have anything else to talk about? Oh! I've got one more thing we're going to show you, then I'm going to go to bed. Have you ever heard of the crucifixion hypercubus?
No. Sounds
You know Salvador Dali, right? He does all the melty clocks.
Oh, that guy. Yeah, I've seen this
Melty
art.
clocks. One of his more famous works of his later years is called the Crucifixion Hypercubus, which is Jesus on a hypercube tesseract.
His pictures kind of look... He's like insane or something.
I didn't type it right, but that's it right there.
Really tiny picture. So he made a... Why? He's not like even crucified, really. He's got like squares that go through his body at random points.
Yes, there's lots of different ways you can draw a tesseract, and one of them is like an unfolding box kind of a shape, like a cross that's cubes.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I've seen that kind of before, but like the issue with this cross version is that
There's an
not
holding the tesseract. Painter who entered the fourth dimension.
he does kind of wait. He's got. You look at his face. It reminds me of the guy from like Heaven's Gate.
Now his eyes are all like white above
So-
the pupils and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Like he's seen some shit that's like opened his mind or something. You know what I mean?
Or he's just really
Eccentric, I guess.
Yeah, eccentric.
Yeah. Well, I see with his fancy mustache twirling and stuff, so he must be... Looks like one of those depictions of like a villain or something. Oh, there's the bad man. You know it's him because he's got that twirly mustache and the top hat or something. This is interesting. What is that, a cube within a cube? Like fourth dimensional stuff?
Well, the inner cube is supposed to be the same size as the outer cube, it's just farther away in the fourth dimension.
Oh, but it's like what we can perceive. Like, was it the idea, like, well, we're three-dimensional beings, so two-dimensional beings wouldn't even be able to see us or perceive us?
Well, spatial dimensions, you have to get rid of the fourth dimension being time, but they proposed in, like, that, Brian Greene, I think, made, like, 11 dimensions. He explained how that would work. Times, like, the fourth dimension. Then you have, like, all possible worlds and realities and possible realities of realities and all, like, condenses down.
Yeah, but isn't...
But that all includes time, so you can't really use that. So you're talking about 4 dimensions and mathematics, and you take, like, if you can see what a 2-dimensional slice of 3 dimensions looks like, then you should be able to figure out what a 4th dimension would look like in 3 dimensions. If you just extract kind of the same mathematical principles of it.
Well, that was kind of the interesting thing. Last time we talked about, remember there was a tech company that ended up finding, like, these energy balls or something that are flying around? That's, like, supposedly, like, creatures that live in the 4th dimension, hypothetically. So my idea was, like, they even care? So, like, we're talking about machine elves, and you have to take DMT to remove, like, your blinders or something. And then you can see, you can see these entities. Now, that might be all bullshit, but the interesting thing about like, reaching this is, isn't time, like, time exists, but time is like perceived differently in different environments. So is there a way to like essentially exploit that? It like reach the fourth dimension. Everyone perceives time differently, right? Time dilation, and then you have
the faster you go, the slower time goes, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. So if like
but
we'd have to do
here
some
going the same speed, so we all perceive it the same.
So I'm just wondering if we would have to do something to like set it up so that we could get to the fourth dimension, or is that even possible? Because the problem was like I could see us maybe being able to do that if we were like non-biological creatures, right?
Well, like if you're like a two-dimensional creature, then you're not going to notice somebody in the third dimension because we may see slices of us, but we would just look like a line.
Yeah, but we're intelligent creatures. We're aware.
I mean, if there's a fourth dimension that you can exist in, and there's creatures in it, we wouldn't be able to see them. They would.
But I'm talking about getting to the fourth dimension. Like, is there any way we could possibly like get there, or it would be like
if an ant stood up on its hind legs and looked up or something?
But like, an ant can interact with me. We're both.
Yeah, I mean, an ant always walks around on a two-dimensional surface. It never really. Well, I guess it can go up and down hills. But
down hills, it's in tunnels, right? It's in the earth. So it's like essentially a 3D environment. But my idea was like, okay, so remember, I know it's a movie, so it's not.
It's like if a fish could fly. It would be like, whoa, I'm on a whole other dimension. Because at first it was like constrained to like a pond or wherever it lives in.
Well, yeah, you're right. Because fish, even though a fish could, if it's in the ocean, could swim anywhere in the ocean, it technically can't, unless it's like a mudfish or something. It can't get onto land and go explore,
like I did
right?
My video where I caught that fish. I'm like, behold! Did you ever see that? When I was fishing on the golf course and I caught that fish.
Oh yeah. So it makes me wonder, like, because fish and other creatures that live in the water and never leave the water, that's their 2D plane, essentially, right? And where the 3Ders are, like, can leave the water and go and do other shit and go up into space. But, like, what if the fourth dimension is, like, the ability to, like, phase through objects or something like that? Like it's kind of the idea where, like, ghosts can walk through objects.
No, you gotta think of it like math. 3 dimensions, you got up, down, left, right, forward, and backwards. What would be a fourth spatial dimension? You just take that whole 3-dimensional object and you rotate it 90 degrees on every axis. Can't do that with solid objects. You'd need it to be made out of putty or something. So it's hard to imagine it.
It's interesting because, like, if we had the power to manipulate something into like a fourth dimensional thing, it would no longer look like a third dimensional object to be a fourth dimensional object. So would we even be able to perceive it?
Here's a way to perceive it. I've got this baseball, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I am in the fourth dimension and I throw this baseball in this direction, there would be copies of the baseball going up, down, left, and right. And this plane, as it's going forward in this plane, it'd be like 5 baseballs, right?
Oh, because it's all the different possibilities and like it.
Kind of.
It's interesting. It's like the idea, because I saw there was a lady who discovered some sort of alpha particle with the Hadron Collider, and they're talking about the God particle and dark matter and all of this stuff, and how dark matter explains that there's a fourth dimension of everything. And so, like, there's all these beta particles and alpha particles that exist in the same spot simultaneously in the universe, even though they're in different locations. So it's all that kind of stuff that was a bit hard to delve into.
The 3-dimensional space, 1 is equal to 1, 2 is equal to 2. The universe is huge. It's like incomprehensibly big. It's constantly expanding, and because we got these set rules and like mathematical rules of 1 equals 1 and all this stuff, right? But in the fourth dimension, like I said, if you move the baseball, you got 4 copies of it that spring forward and exist also. So it's not like 1 = 1. It's like you're breaking the laws of physics, but it's just the physics of the third dimension that you're breaking. The fourth dimension, it all makes sense and it works. So they say like electrons travel through the fourth dimension. That's why they can like circumnavigate the whole universe in the split second. Like all of the electrons in your body are like traveling around the whole universe constantly, but it's moving so fast that you don't even notice it. So the universe seems big to us, probably really small.
But like, if we could, once we get up to a stage, like people want to take, what was it?
And some of the dimensions they say could be curled up, which goes along with my theory of the Mandelbrot zoom. You know, when you go in, like I said, your brain probably works like a fractal, where you have like the code or the writing or whatever that describes your memories is all like on zoomed in or zoomed out versions of the fractal, and then when you curl it all up on itself, you can't even see it anymore because it's so small. But it's there.
Yeah. The same idea behind our DNA is like strands of DNA are like tightly wrapped.
This isn't even a real baseball. I just realized this is made of rubber or something. What the hell?
Like a foam ball.
It's like a kid's ball or something. It's not even cork.
It's not supposed to hurt you when you. So this is kind of an interesting, like humans. Let's say the next evolution is we merge with machines or something like that, right? Because like our biological bodies are too affected by poisons and other stuff in our natural earth. We become cyborgs, like that game that came out recently.
Cyberpunk, yeah.
So we're basically all cyberpunk people. Well, what's the next version? Because it's like, well, if we could figure out how to put our memories into like hard drive or something, then can I essentially like use a VR to kind of explore the globe, but like, you know what I mean? Like I can leave my body because my mind is already like downloaded into the internet. It gives me an idea in a way where you could be able to
copies of yourself.
Yeah, you could make copies of yourself
and then
feel like the Borg essentially in a way.
As different versions of you experience different things, and they technically become their own different
person. Because if you had one copy yourself when and witnessed something horrific,
unless you have like you know, like when your software will update and like or what's it called, Google Drive will like sync up, so you get all the copies of yourself and all the memories sync up, and then everybody knows what everybody else knows, and all of a sudden you're like 10 times as smart as you were because you had 10 times the experiences all merged together.
Yeah, I assume there would be some risk factors between like what happens if you have one experience that corrupts the other experiences or something. But like this video I'm watching where it just gets, what is this exactly? Is this a picture or is this art? Or are they looking at something
it's
like
a mathematical algorithm that you're zooming in on?
So it just keeps going and going and going until like, I guess because it's like, when you get smaller than like electrons and stuff and atoms, it's to a point where it finally like levels out and there's nothing smaller.
I don't know, it just keeps going.
Jeez, it's kind of trippy. It's hard to, it makes me wonder if that's what the universe is, because each one of these fucking things could be like a galaxy.
If I paused it like right there, right? And I wrote like...
Oh, it still looks like it's moving. What the fuck, even though you paused it?
That is weird. I'm seeing that. What if I wrote some words on this line right here, right?
Yeah.
And then I backed it up. Now you don't even see it anymore. It's so far away. It's so small. Like it didn't take up any space. It's like infinite hard drive space. That's what your brain is like, and your memories and stuff. Like when you go to sleep, it zooms you in where you can read the shit, and then as soon as you wake up, you start forgetting shit because you're like going away from it. It's getting too small where you can't access it unless you.
Well,
do
the other thing
I've
been wondering about is earworms. So I have an earworm that I've been listening to a while. I like the song, but it's been in my head for like 6 months, and it just repeats.
Is it Blinding Lights by The Weeknd?
It is. No, it's not that one, but it could very well be. It's very kind of similar. But my point is, why do we get earworms? Is that a glitch? Or is it like your body's like, you heard this enough times, it should be like important. I'm gonna repeat it. You can't differentiate between music and like information.
Yeah, that's what I wonder. Like, if somebody went to an alternate universe where like some song had never been invented, like "Let It Be" by the Beatles, would somebody else figure that song out?
Is it just inevitable that we all like make songs about? Because okay, you know how some people will do covers of other people's songs and it sounds terrible, and people are like, but if that was the original person to do that song, we all say that song is terrible. You know what I mean? You'd
Yeah.
like you have to have someone who's talented and have a good voice, and they can sing any fucking song that's garbage, and we'd say it's a good song. It's kind of like a lot of that, like Justin Bieber songs. A lot of them are like, I don't find them interesting, but he's made a lot of money, so someone found his shit interesting. And it comes into this kind of idea of there's a lot of sounds that. This is why I think some people are more prone to maybe like magnetic stuff, interference, and seeing ghosts and other shit than other people. Is it might be something tied to, you know how like stuff is the uncanny valley, or it has to go into like some sort of like snail shells and other stuff have like all of these animals
The
have like
the golden ratio.
golden ratio, yeah, and so there's a lot of sounds that also go into the golden ratio, and
Well,
if
you
it's
know,
outside
like
that,
most
we don't
pop
like it.
songs have like 4 chords. That's all they use. They're called 4-chord
Yeah.
songs.
Yeah.
I guess
I was
that's the ones
watching-
that harmonize the most with their brains or something.
Yeah, so it's like harmonization, and then you combine that with like a lot of these all seem to. You can take these sounds and use math on them and use the perfect equation, and then like birds and a lot of other animals, they all use this kind of same. Like, it's weird because snails, even though if we look at like evolution, you can see animals they did not evolve next to each other or even close to each other, and they're completely different, yet they'll still use the golden ratio. So it's like the golden ratio is that like the driving force behind evolution. And how did
Well, it's
evolution
like
come up with the golden
lightning
ratio?
bolts look like blood vessels, look like tree roots and branches, looks like rivers. It all kind of follows the same algorithm.
Yeah, it makes me wonder.
Growing and dividing and growing and dividing, and then you have friction and weathering and imperfections that kind of make it look a little different.
Here's the thing that I've been wondering for a while. This might sound like complete bullshit, but for a while, you know how at all these different games will have like a fantasy world, there'll be elves, humans, dwarves, gnomes, and then there'll be the beast races, right? What if
Yeah.
it got to a point where like we had a world like that at one point. Maybe not as fantasy based or whatever, magic or whatever, but it was the basic. You had all these different races. There's a lot of stories from every single culture about beast races or some sort of like animal, monster, humanoid creature. And you go across the board and look at all these different races, and you know, they all seem to have mystical creatures like goblins or whatever, right? And so my idea behind it is, do these things actually exist and we just killed them all and we don't know because like history repeats itself or history covers up the past and it's all kind of lost to history now?
Well, I think like beast races is easy to come by because like you see all these different animals. You're like, well, what if you combine this animal with this animal? I remember there's that cartoon. Was it the Wussels? They have like Bumble Bear, and they have like a hippopotamus something. They're like 2 animals combined together to make a different animal.
Yeah.
So that's why you end up with like the Bigfoot and the Bear Man and the Pig Man and the Grass Man and all these different kinds of like werewolves and werebears and owl bears and were owls. Just like,
Yeah,
how many variations can we make?
And it's the variations that just keep going. Like, the ones that seem to be most in our current, it's like vampires and werewolves seem to be like the most, but those were mostly based off a book, right? They were kind of loosely in Transylvania and other places, but it was like dragons is another one. All these different cultures all have some version of a dragon, but it's like, sometimes they're different. Like they're Chinese dragon that doesn't have wings, but it's like a sky dragon.
It's like a lion. They have a lion dance, they call it, where they're dressed up with those costumes.
So it's like, it makes me wonder if, like, let's say there's creatures X amount. Let's say, I don't know how to explain it. Like, everything we see is real, hypothetically. It's just like,
I don't know if I buy it.
you know what I mean?
Maybe
like,
none of it's real.
None of it's real. But it's like, what is it? Because there's always the people in us go, well, if this goblin isn't real, then what did this lady see? Then you go and like, oh, she didn't see anything. She's just fucking a heroin addict and it's crazy. You know what I mean? Or there's something to it. Because there's a lot of these, for instance,
we're talking about the cyborg thing?
Yeah.
Now they're saying like the corona vaccine is going to be like getting everybody to take the mark of the beast, the chip in your hand or whatever. I want to get like an implanted microchip that I put in myself before anybody else does. Then when they try to give it to me, I'll be like, nah, I already got one. Oh, you already got your microchip. Okay, and then they leave me alone. But my microchip
they have
has
to like
what I
verify
want.
it. They're like, well, when we barcode it, it doesn't come up with your ID, so you gotta get a new one. Like, I feel like that's the problem with the government. They started doing that with people's pets. Oh, it's because we need to make sure your pet, like, if it runs away, we can find it again or something, Now we're doing it with people. And then, like, when does it stop? That's what I'm saying. Like, because it might get... Because, we talked to
It's
Zambaro.
because we're property. We're like the slaves of the government. Because think about, like, we spend a third of our lives at work, pretty much. Like, 8 hours of the day out of a 24-hour day.
Have to, yeah, or else we'll become homeless. Like, you see what happens when people don't go to work. They're homeless, and then they just... Government, like, essentially treats homeless people like they're worthless. And I was always trying to, like, get rid of them and, like, round them up.
Once you're rich and you don't need money, people just give you things. It's like the opposite of how it should work.
Yeah,
like,
it's like
you're
once
rich,
you
come to
become
our
rich.
restaurant because we want to have a rich person there because it'll draw more people in. Don't even have to pay. It's like, but I'm rich. Why wouldn't I pay?
Then that's the kind of thing with streamers. Like all the Twitch or these companies will give Twitch streamers like, hey, if you just stream our game for an hour, we'll give you like $1 million or $4 million. Like, so if you're rich and popular, it just kind of
snowballs.
But if you're the opposite, it's like stagnates or gets worse. So, like, I watched Hellboy again recently, one of the movies. It was him in the Golden Army. And in the premise of that movie, it was like all the different elf and other mystical creatures had signed a treaty, like, 1,000 years ago or whatever. They would stay in the forests, and humans would stay in the meadows and their cities and leave us alone. But eventually it gets to the point where humans are at the point right now where we've industrialized the entire world and we're cutting down all the forests and stuff. And so the movie starts off with the premise where he wants to, like, the guy who's essentially the king of the monsters wants to retake the world for the monsters. He goes, kind of does that. And it made me think about that in a way, like, maybe monsters do exist, but we've just, like, taken over and obliterated, like, everything. Like, anytime, if you're a monster, you might not even want to poke your head out. Or like, well, what if a person sees me and I get on Twitch or some shit, or Twitter, and then my entire race is going to be hunted down and like wiped out by the government. You know what I mean?
With the Salem witch trials, like maybe some witches escaped and they're actually out there, but they're scared.
I'm not so much like witches. I meant like actual like demons and monsters and stuff. Like if they do exist, it would be in their best interest to pretend they don't exist, or else we would like hunt them down, right?
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
It's kind of the same idea where it was like with it's like you let information leak out to the point where it sounds like it's absurd. Like, most people now where the government goes, yeah, those UFOs, we think they're aliens, and now people are like, yeah, okay. Because they've been desensitized for years of watching movies of aliens, and it's become like, an alien is like Santa Claus now, in a regard. People just kind of like, well, unless I actually see it, it's just fantasy. Anyway, That's me
Or the
done for
government
ranting.
has like a monopoly on the aliens, so they've been having deals with them for years and keeping them from the common folk.
Well, that's what
What if the aliens think that everybody knows about them, but the government is like kept it a secret, and only they can talk to the aliens? And the aliens will be really pissed off if they found out, like, you didn't tell anybody about us. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's like when we went to the moon, right? There's there's some creepypastas that kind of go into this, and they talk about how like the only way we got to the technology that we're at now is because we asked the aliens, like, hey, we're trying to find like a superconductor to build, and it's not working. And then the aliens eventually like somehow give them the message, or like, oh well, you're using the wrong element. You need to use this to make like whatever your computer is missing or whatever it is. And that allowed us to get into like a golden age of technology, and it snowballed us to this point. But the aliens are like only talk to our military and didn't realize that our military doesn't like let anybody else know. They're like, oh no, we're just going to use this for our own personal gain, and that's it.
It's kind of like power leveling somebody in the game, and they don't know what to do once they get all the max level.
Oh yeah, like someone who boosts.
Like you give me all the iron gear in Valheim at the beginning, and I don't know how to fight fucking Grey Dwarfs.
You don't have to fight Grey Dwarfs getting slaughtered.
Well, we got these nuclear bombs, but we set them off and like we only get 2% yield out of them. We don't even know. You know how crazy it was when they were doing those experiments? Like they didn't know if it was going to like burn off the atmosphere. Especially when they did the Starfish Prime, when they blew it up in space. Like they didn't know if it cooked the whole atmosphere off.
Well, the one that was really scary to me was
give it a shot. Let's try it. Probably won't hurt it.
It's like when Russia's got them. They originally used the nukes they buried them in the ground, and then were like, oh, we're going to use the craters as lakes, and that'll be like for our fresh water. But then didn't realize radiation was a thing, so now you have all of these radioactive contaminated lakes like all across like northern Russia that no one could go to for the next 100 years because they're radioactive. And then the other one was Bikini Atoll. You remember that?
Yeah.
In that video, and they tested the bomb, and it was like 10 times more powerful than it was like 15. I don't know. It was more powerful than it was supposed to be because they didn't do the math correctly, and people who were 3 miles away on ships saw the blast and got 3rd-degree burns, and they were like 3 miles away, right? Like, and then the government was essentially like, oh, whatever, just sweep it under the rug, it's no big deal.
How have we not revolted against the government and just, like, hanged everybody?
Like, they essentially almost killed their own men who had nothing to do with the blast, who were just, like, doing military training on a nearby island.
If this was a movie, we would be, like, the worst bad guys of all time.
Well, that's what I've been wondering. Everyone sees, like, America as being, like,
who's the good guys? Sweden?
But they're not really at all. Like, you look at America, we go around to a bunch of foreign people's countries and do what the British did, like 200 years ago.
Like, you're Canadian, and you even say we do this because it's like everybody in the first world just sees themselves as American, pretty much.
Pretty much North America, right? Because it's like, there's American companies here. I don't know about Canadian companies, but...
I mean, England's kind of like going along with all the crazy shit we do, too. They kind of do the same shit.
The Queen used to, well, before pandemic, the Queen would come here every 2 years and, like, do a big parade, and even though she's not technically our monarchy anymore, she's on our money. Like, like, the dollar bill, all of the dollars have, like, the Queen's face on everything. So it's like, if we're not a monarchy, then why is she still on our money? So when I think about... It's just like a tradition or something.
You seen those Prince Harry memes? Or him and his wife. What's her name?
Meghan or something?
Yeah, Meghan Markle. They moved to America, and there's all these memes about it, and he's like, you know how nice it is to like go to a strip club and not have to hand out pictures of my grandma to everybody?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Hand out pictures of your grandma. Well, So if humans have gotten to the apex, like we won the MMO world essentially, we've killed off all the other races except for our own, and then we're just kind of left to like. Could you imagine, like, could you watch animes or you watch like Lord of the Rings, and them, like, especially undead is not even like a big deal. It's like, let's go all the Crusaders together and we'll go kill all the undead. But then you have you have undead break out in the real world and people can't handle it. Everyone like runs for the hills. It made me wonder, like, in real life, could we actually like fight off an alien invasion? Probably not, right? If they just have technology that's like way above ours.
Unless it's like aliens from another dimension that don't have any special skills other than like traveling between dimensions. Maybe
Yeah, like if they opened up a rift gate, like from the Mistlands or something,
They're
like
like-
Stephen King book or something.
They're like cavemen, but they can travel through space time or something. That's all they can really do. It's just like they mutated a mutation. Their
Well, I
antennas
feel like-
will open up gates. I don't know.
Well, the one thing with humans that I don't really see going away, unless we get reset again, like a big natural disaster happens that wipes us off the face of the earth or something, is guns and technology. Like, we have anything that comes here that's a fleshy creature that can bleed. It's like, oh, okay, we'll just hit you with bombs and shoot you until you die. Like,
It's like throwing rocks or anything about it, like shooting a gun. It's like throwing a really
Yeah.
fast rock.
yeah, you got a slingshot essentially that can fire like. Because it used to be what crossbows and bows were like the guns of the past, right? If you shoot someone in the chest with an arrow, there was usually like, okay, that person's dead. Because we didn't have like the abilities to treat them, and then if the arrow was poisoned or all this other stuff. This stuff has gotten so much better. It almost feels like we're weaker though, because we take so many precautions to stay alive, and like, you know how like in the past, even though there was less people, they would take more risks and like they seemed to be like they would fight wars harder. You would have like these stories of these
They had nothing
Viking
to lose back then.
berserkers.
They got nowhere to go but up.
Nowhere but up. Yeah, I hope so. Well, it's usually like the stories we hear of these people is because they were like the top tier alpha dudes of their time.
That's kind of why I don't worry about, like, if I'm on some rich person's land, if I'm trespassing or something, you know, like looking for mushrooms, whatever I do. Because they have too much to lose. They're not going to shoot me. They could go to jail and lose all their... The whole point of being rich is that you're going to enjoy it. They're not going to shoot somebody. Why would they?
I wonder about that because, like, there might be some people that are like really God-given, like Bible beat. Like, you be careful if you're going through the Bible Belt exploring through mushroom forests, because there might be some fucking people out there that are like, it's my God-given right to kill you or something, you know? And they don't care. But most of the time, you're not going through rich people's properties. You're going through like farmers' properties.
I
and
mean,
shit.
anybody that owns land is wealthy, in my opinion.
Well, you do have a point there, right? I wonder because, like, in Canada, they keep talking about the Great Reset and how, like, after the pandemic, they're going to restructure the government and everything's going to be great. And one of their slogans was, "You will own nothing and like it, or you will love it," or something.
I could
So it's
see
like-
that.
So it's like, how?
It's like I like the idea that I own all this government land, like national parks and shit. It's like, technically it's mine. I can just go there and do whatever I want. I don't
Yes, so
technically own it. I own it with everybody else, but same time, I like having it.
that's kind of the issue too with like, let's say you die and you own a property, but you don't have any like heirs, then it just goes back to the government. Like they just take it. And it's the same thing if you commit suicide and you don't have any heirs, the money goes to the government. So it's like, is the government the end all be all? Is it essentially like, because a lot of times the government, all they do is like, they just manage services like your taxes and
I'm
A
sure
lot
they
of it
would
comes
immediately
back-
sell it or turn it into public land or something, wouldn't they?
assume so. So a lot of times it's like, what's the point of the government, right? Like the government controls the military, who essentially protects us from invading forces, but it's kind of got to a point where we really need government if, like, it's assured destruction and no one's gonna, like, blow each other up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't see anybody invading the United States.
Like, even if China did try to do it, they know that assured destruction's a thing. So it's like, that's the one thing they've been talking about recently, where they wanted to, like, invade Taiwan, but the U.S. has a treaty with them saying that if they get invaded, they'll defend them. But it's China, and now people are like, oh, just leave it alone. But then if you do that, then you've seen what happens in, like, when we're playing Civ or whatever. You don't defend your allies, then your other allies won't defend you. And it kind of, like, creates a domino effect. But at the end of the day, it's like, what do we do about that? Because it's like, if we do get to the point where it's assured destruction and we do blow each other up or something, I don't think that's going to stop human nature from building back up and going to war again. Unless we completely destroy ourselves.
That's when Bigfoot comes out and stops everybody. Like, whoa, guys, look, I'm Bigfoot here. Let's talk about me now.
Alright. Yeah, that's. I think I'm going to go have a shower. I think I'm done.
Alright.
It's a pretty good long chat.
We got way off on a tangent,
Topic.
but a little extra entertainment
See if
for
people
everyone.
like it or not.
Alright, we'll see everyone later.